Paqueta Ridge Estates. May we call on Commissioner Eligio T. Balyari of the Commission on Human Rights, and call on Undersecretary for Justice, my Professor Ernesto Pineda, and then may we call on Dean Ponciano Sabido to come up. And then later, of course, our main speaker, guest from the United States, will speak. But meanwhile, Commissioner, Secretary, they will call it the Elizabeth Roth. And then you've seen the nature of our program. It's self-initiative. Kaya nagbigyan mo ng volunteers to lead us in prayer and also someone to lead us in singing. So today's occasion marks a historical turn in our history, that we are bringing back the power and the privilege and where it emanates from the people. So to give us an introduction, I call on Toto Kausing to say a few words to get us going. And then
who give a chance to listen to what this idea is all about. To Dean Ponciano Sabido, to my former professor, Dean Ernesto Pineda, to Commissioner Elio Balyari, to our special guest from the United States of America, Attorney Marlo Camello, a practitioner there for at least 30 years, who has brought this idea to us. We, the Human ng Mamamayan Movement Incorporated, as one of the lead organizers of this event, together with the Katarungan Pansabayan Land Incorporated, the Worldwide Filipino Alliance, the Overseas Filipino Council International, the Compassionate Values for Accountability and Transparency, and all other private persons who volunteered their time, effort, and money for the realization of this event, which is so special to us. We welcome you all for this occasion. Before giving you the meat or the substance of this event, I want to give you the words I picked. To think, once again, if the power to interpret or judge, and the power to implement the laws. We see our people electing or exercising directly the power to implement laws, or the executive power by electing the president and the vice president. We see the people directly exercising their power to make laws, or indirectly, as they call it, by electing our congressmen and senators. Have you seen people, the Filipino people, I rather say, exercising that power to judge? Have we elected at one point in our history any judge or justice as in other jurisdictions, particularly in some states in the United States of America? We haven't. Since 1901, when the system of criminal justice that existed with the pair of fiscal and judge, or prosecutor and judge, or in the modern times, the ombudsman and the judge, either in the persons of Sandigan Bayan justices or the regional trial court judges. During those times, I have read the report of former U.S. President William Howard Taft about what he did in the Philippines as the first civil Governor General, and he reported in one line that he cannot yet apply the jury system in the Philippines because he believed that the Filipinos, sadly to say, ignorant. Can that premise be the same now? The level of literacy of the Filipinos now is almost 95%. Although it does not necessarily follow, but it is always as it is, that one who is educated has a higher degree to know what is happening in his environment, to distinguish between what is wrong and what is right, and to know, listening to a person, if that person testifying is telling the truth or not. Is that a hard task to act? You need not be a lawyer to understand whether a witness is telling the truth or not. You just observe how the witness testified. So many arguments, so many obstacles along the way while I was talking about this idea are telling me I am not a lawyer. Leave that to the lawyers or leave that to the judges. The act of determining which proposition is true and which is right. When the United States founded this system of justice 240 years ago, can you say that those Americans during those period are more intelligent than the Filipinos of today? That we cannot be prepared to face this task? In the United Kingdom, what is now Great Britain in old times, when the nobles, the barons, rebelled against the king, then bad King John. And when they won, they did not ask for the throne. They only asked the king to sign the Magna Carta. And this happened on June 15, 1215. And one of the basic rights that was demanded by the rebels then was the basic right of the people to demand to be tried only by their peers. They so demanded because they were so tired of the repeated incidents wherein the king was the one who accused and the king was the one who was making judgment, paving the way for him to kill all the enemies that he wanted. Because of the atrocities and the cruelty or the degree of brutality of this king, there came the story. There was born the story, which you now know as the Robin Hood. It was the manner of telling by the people then, of expressing their dissent against the king. If they were fearful of the king that they cannot attack him frontally, they just did it by means of dramas on the streets or elsewhere, staging the story about Robin Hood stealing money to give it to the people. So, if this justice system existed in the United Kingdom for so many hundreds of years, and since that time there was no more wars, for the throne, and if it proves, as history shows, to be successful in the United States when it was founded at a time when discrimination was at the highest. Can we do it now here when our color is only one, brown? Do not tell me that you are only a high school graduate, that you do not know how to determine who among the persons pronouncing anything in front of you are telling the truth and who are not. Meaning to say, I am pressing this idea because this is doable for us to do. Just imagine, how many years have you been under this system? This kind of system has bred so many tyrants, so many lords, and the last of those lords are yet to be arraigned. When we speak of arraignment, it is a matter of reading the charges against the accused, and that is being indispensable. Why? Because you cannot deprive the person of his liberty without due process of law. And that act of complying with the due process of law is to inform him of the nature and cause of accusation against him. Sad to say, only ang Patuan Jr. has been arraigned until today. Look at the procedures in all our courts, in all our country. You can see there that an ordinary accused, even how much he cries in front of the judges, he cannot beg for a time to suspend the arraignment. After 60 days, if you have filed a petition for review before the Department of Justice, no way, gentlemen, the accusation must be read unto you. That is how our justice system works. If the accused is an ordinary individual, even if you have lawyers, but if you are an Patuan, how many days? 521 days up to now, from the time of the happening of the massacre of 58 persons on November 23, 2009, in the town of Patuan, province of Maguindanao. My God, you can just see how our justice system, how it works. They say, some say, that it is not in the system, but it is in the people in the system. I say to them, if we have this kind of people who do not change, will you still remain in your theory or premise that it is not in the system? I say, we have to build a new system, a system that can compel compliance for everybody to become a person who acts with good manners and right and tact. If they say that the system of justice is expensive, just because you imagine you will be employing at least 12 persons during the trial period.
Parang by delegation.
Guys, the average trial days in the United States run from 3 days to 1 week. In the complicated cases, it may run months, 2 months, 3 months, up to 6 months.
Anong time ako magsabi?
But that is negligible in number. And what is the net effect? The net effect is it will develop fear in the minds of criminals that they would now not risk trial. Like our Congressman Ronald Alcensor. He pleaded guilty because in Hong Kong, the system there is jury system. Because if you will risk and you plead not guilty, and if you will be tried by the jury, the maximum punishment will be unto you. What I'm telling here is, in the long run, we will save on cost. Cost-wise, our judiciary today is spending at least 27 billion pesos a year. for all the courts, for all its personnel, for all its judges, for all its justices. I have computed how much expenses do we need to undergo for a year, assuming that for every case the accused pleads not guilty. The cost is only 50 billion pesos. Now, look at our national budget. Now it is 1.6 trillion pesos. The reports of reputable agencies, how much money from this national budget go to the pockets? 15% up to 30%. What is 30% of 1.6 trillion? That is 450 billion pesos. If we will spend 50 billion pesos for the operations of the jury, how much can we save? If the operation, assuming it will result in at least 50% reduction in corruption. Just imagine if the ombudsman is peopled by a jury of jurors, a group of 25 or 23 people, that is the equivalent of the grand jury in the United States. What do you think would happen? Would still there be big fishes who would enjoy the luxury of time waiting for the charges to be filed against him after 5 years, and when it was filed, then I would invoke my right to speedy trial has been violated, therefore this case must be dismissed. As what happened to our former Justice Secretary Hernani Perez. Anyway, the bottom line here is, it is now time for we, the people, to take that power back. Welcome to the jury convention.
I'd like to, before we go on, we would like to introduce or acknowledge the presence of mga miyembro ng Lupon dito sa Quezon City, sa Tondo, at sa delegation ng galing pa sa Cagayan province. Let's give them a round of applause. And I'd like to just mention that justice is a very important thing in the life of our nation. It's been said that Confucius said that a nation can survive drought, calamities like earthquakes, flooding and all, and even hunger. They will survive. But remove the sense of justice among people, make them distraught, not believe the system of justice, and you will have revolution in your hands. So, this is something I think that we have to think about. People are restless, people are distraught. We see a system that is failing, and so we are gathered today to discuss about an alternative justice system. It's a topic that has been discussed many, many years ago, even when I was in college here in UP. But nothing has happened to that because there's a bias against the jury system. Sabi nila, hindi tayo handa. Ang kultura natin is not set for a jury system. And many other resistance to change. Hopefully, with our gathering today, we will convince the same number of people who are here, the relatives and friends, that there is hope, that there are people carrying the torch for change. And so, I failed to mention earlier that my name is Ener Sampang. I'm
then I am assured, moreover, as stated by Thomas Jefferson, quote, trial by jury is the only
Dean
angle
Sabido for
ever yet
Dean
imagined by man,
Adamson.
by which a government can be held to the principles of the Constitution. Indeed, it is only through the jury system that the law can be given life, or as aptly noted by Oliver Wendell, and we quote, the life of the law has not been logic, but it has been experience. Experience as felt by a juror of your peers and adapted to the facts and the law present in the present case. Allow me to present to you the salient features, salient characteristics of the jury system that will ensure that justice is served and not a distorted interpretation and application of the law. And these are, number one, the parties in litigation have the right to choose their own judge. This is done through the jury selection stage of the system. Nakatuwid po, tayo ang mamimili kung sino ang puhusga sa atin. Hindi yung isang judge na apoy, makaupo, naghihintay na lang na mag-retire hanggang age 70. Number two, the jury deliberation stage is done in a closed door session. Each juror is free to voice out his stand, defend it, and convince the other jurors in the verdict that he believes in. Hence, each of the jurors will take a stand and convince the others to accept his verdict. Number three, the jurors' act of taking a stand and convincing others to support said stand is a mechanism in the development of free expression of ideas until the best course of action is arrived at. This practice undeniably educates the jurors, and as one political thinker and avid supporter of the jury trial system said, quote, jury is a free school that is always open. Ito po sa characteristics ng jury system, the jury deliberation. Pagkatapos po ng trial, doon sa hukuman, sila po ay pupunta sa isang silid na tinatawag deliberation room. At doon uupo yung mga jurors. Bawat isa may kanyang verdict. Ako, naniniwala ako, not guilty. So I have to convince the other jurors to follow my stand. Ganun din yung mga kasama ko. May sarili rin silang stand. Sabi, not guilty. Guilty, sabi mo isa. So each one has his stand and each one convincing each other. Hindi ho ba napakaganda yung sistema na yan? Hindi ho ba yung sistema na yan ay nagbibigay ng pag-aaral ng ating mga kababayan kung anong mangyayari sa ating bayan? Pang-apat, the jurors are not required to explain orally or in writing their final verdict to the public, to the court, or to the parties. Basta butuhan lang ito sila kung ano lumabas na yon ang desisyon ng grupo, paglabas nila sa Estado, mayroon na po kaming verdict. Sabi ng judge, ano yun? Guilty! Tapos na. The judge will not ask them, bago kayo nakarating sa desisyon? They are not required to explain their verdict. Number 5, the juror's power of nullification. Ito po ang maganda. The power of nullification of the jury. Ano po itong power na ito? The power of nullification is inherent power of the jurors. To what? To nullify. Ibaliwala ang batas, to set aside any presidential executive order, any announcement or pronouncement by the government, including the Supreme Court, pwede nilang itabi. Kung sa kanilang akala, itong batas na ito, itong proclamation na ito, itong decision na ito, ay nakakatadlang sa kanila kung paano sila makarating sa katotohanan. Power of nullification. At kung in-exercise niya, hindi nyo dapat i-explain kung bakit ninyo sinet aside yung batas na yan. 6. Cases in jury system are finished and disposed of in a short period of time. Sabi na yan ang ating mga earlier speaker. Depending only on the nature of the case, it may be decided in a week's time or in a month's time, but not exceeding 1 year. Not exceeding 1 year. Talaga ito, pwede ko pong sabihin na narinig nyo, nalaman ka nyo, ng tungkol ng aso ng American football legend, si O.J. Simpson. Ngayon po ay wala pa isang tapos na. Kung ilang mga witnesses ang nag-testify, ang dokumento na nilabas ng prosecution ay isang bundok. Pero wala pa isang taon tapos na. At bakit ganon? Sapagkat sa jury system po ay hindi pwede yung postponement. As a rule, hindi pwede ang postponement. At kami mga abogado, yan po ang aming kinakapitanan. Ano sa Jackman case? Ano ba ang labanan sa Jackman case? Ang labanan namin ko na yung possession ng bahay. So, ang defendant, kung maninila niya sa mas lalong mga panahon, matagal na panahon, mas mabuti sa kanya.
Panalo na.
Ang plaintiff, siyempre, siya may-ari ng bahay, gusto niya mabilisan. Ang teknik ng mga abogado, mag-isip ka ng paraan para ma-postpone. Hindi mo pwede na postpone, lalo-lalo na kung ang mga jurors ay na-impanel. What is meant when we say jurors are impanel? Ibig sabihin, sila po ay hindi papayagang uuwi. Tutulog sila sa isang hotel o anumang lugar na ma-designate ang husgado. But they will not be allowed to go home. That is what it meant by jury impanelment. Kaya mga mo kung jury impanelment ka, para sa post po, pupurahin ka ng mga juror. At hindi sila uwi hanggang hindi tapos. Hanggang hindi nila nabibigay yung kanilang verdict, guilty or not guilty, for the plaintiff or for the defendant as the case may be. Pangpito, no memorandum of the parties capsulizing the respective claims or defense is allowed, but it will only unduly delay the proceeding. Ito rin po kami mga abogado, dito kami pinabayaran ng mahal. Pero nung po sila dyan pagkagawa ng memorandum, ay per ora ang charge nila. Ang kapal-kapal ng memorandum para makapalagay. At ito rin ang isang paraan para ma-delay yung asunto. At yan ay pinapayagan ng ating rules of court. Kung minsan ba, ang dyan pa mismo na nagsasabi, alright, parties, you are given 30 days. 30 days. Maski na 30 days on the 29th day, magpapaya ka ng motion for extension of time. Pangwalo po, the parakasa and or influence peddling, a padrino or school fraternity body, and whom you know and not what you know system, and the money power system, which are very prevalent in our present system. Under the jury system, this will be terminated and extinguished. Ako po ay, ang hanap buhay ko po ay isang abogado. Sa practice po ako na mahigit na 30 years na. Alam niyo ba, ang unang tanong ng kliyente, pagpunta sa opisina, unang tanong na, kilala niyo ba si Judge Pineda? Hindi niya tinatanong kung alam mo yung batas eh. Dahil sa umpisa pa lang, mayroon nang nagsisinungaling sa amin. Kaya ako, hanap buhay ko yun. Parang sasagot ko sa iyo. Kasi ay, si Judge ko, kilala natin. Kaya naman yun, hanap buhay din na practice of law. Wala na po yan sa jury system. Because you do not know who will be the judge. You will only come to know who would be your judges at the jury selection stage. Na ikaw may participation ka kung sino yung gusto mo at kung sino yung ayaw mo kauupo ng juror. Therefore, viewed from the above context, it can be concluded that without doubt, the jury system, number one, the jury system offers the citizen the distinct opportunity to participate in the determination, dispensation, and pursuit of justice. Sabi nga, ang salita kanina, ang tao ang huhusga, hindi yung nag-iisang juez.